Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. Another exciting episode for you guys this week. We're in the heart of the playoff season for the NFL. We're going into the divisional rounds after an exciting wild card weekend. So Big Meat and I are going to break down the NFL season for you in the playoffs and give you our bold Super Bowl predictions. So that way you can mock us in the future if we're way off, or you can say we are how brilliant we are. And we're going to do a little fantasy. We're going to dive into the fantasy season and talk about those NFL coaching vacancies and their impact on fantasy, and talk about the top receivers that for 2021. All right, let me welcome in my partner, Big Meat. How's it going?
It's going good. It's an all football podcast, and I like it. We're in smack dab in the middle of NFL playoffs. Patriots are not in it, obviously, but still, I've been watching some of the playoff games, and it's exciting to watch playoff football again, even though the Patriots aren't in it. And I like the topics with the wide receivers. I like the topics with the coaching vacancies. I'm looking forward to what everybody thinks. What you think are the two Super Bowl contenders. Now we're in the second round here. We're in the divisional round, so it's down to 8 teams now, right?
Yep.
And I'm curious to see what your prediction is, because my prediction might surprise you.
Really? Is yes. There going to be? It's not going to be the automatic Tom Brady, the Binky. He's not going to be your.
Well, you'll just have to wait and see, and when we get to that segment.
All right.
Keep people in suspense.
Yeah. Well, I'm just pulling up the NFL brackets right now, and so. It's interesting. I apologize. Why don't you jump in, Big Meat? Because I'm here it is, divisional playoffs. I was just pulling it up on the NFL app and just trying to get the games.
Yeah, you do your research, Azar. You do.
So I got the first game now. Let me just say this right now, because people are wondering, oh, where's the third man? This is the football topic. This isn't about the Mandalorian and Wonder Woman. Where's the third man? And we did get a last minute text that apparently duties are calling right now, and that could be anything from his child has vomited all over him, or he's cleaning up a dirty diaper. So hopefully he'll be there to join us, because the first game we want to talk about in the playoffs is the Rams and the Packers. That's the first game, and that's his man crush. So just not having Jarvis here is kind of disappointing to talk about his man crush.
You know he's just going to say Rodgers all the way, right? I mean, That's just, there's no surprise there. I mean, we can put on our Jarvis hat and talk like him and just say Rodgers is going to beat the Rams. Then he's going to go on and he's going to win in the NFC Championship, and he's going to go to the Super Bowl, and he's going to win the Super Bowl and be Super Bowl MVP.
Well, that's obviously, so we don't need the third man. I guess we already know who's going to be for him, because we know who he's rooting for. I hate the Rams. I hate everything about the Rams. So I am rooting for Rodgers. Not that I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan or anything, but I just think the Packers are a more complete team. I hate Jared Goff. I think he's the most inconsistent quarterback and the most frustrating quarterback. As brilliant as McVay is supposed to be, why he's held on to Goff when it feels like to me Goff cost them so many games. It just blows my mind. Like he just disappears. He's the most inconsistent quarterback, and I just don't think he has that. He's got that Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford. He's got talent, but doesn't have that killer instinct to win a game. I think he just can't take you all the way. So I think the Packers are going to breeze through this matchup easily.
I agree.
On Saturday night. I
agree. I think this is the biggest easy pick out of the 4 games. That's the one that I'm relying heavily on the Packers to win that game.
Yeah, I think that's a lock. If you're going to bet on the weekend, Packers, if you're in a knockout pool, Packers are an easy win for you. I think the Ravens and the Bills game that Saturday night is more intriguing to me than the Packers game. Like I could skip watching the Packers game because I already know the outcome is going to be, but you got 2 up-and-coming quarterbacks in the league, the new stars of the league, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And I'm actually rooting for the Bills. And I know I'm a Patriots fan, but I feel like if I'm going to root for anybody, I want to root for someone from the AFC East to win it. I'd rather, or at least our conference to win it than Baltimore. They're not a likable team. I don't like Baltimore. But I feel like Josh Allen is a player you could root for. That's just my opinion. And
Yep.
but I don't know how to call this game. The Bills are just unpredictable. Like, I don't know. I think the Baltimore is historically, when they get into the playoffs, they just turn on a switch and they become this great team. I don't know your thoughts on it. If I was betting, I don't know how to pick.
It's a tough one. This is the toughest one. So the first one was an easy one with the Packers. This one's a tough one for me because you're right. You got two teams, and Baltimore, they've been playing great the last several games. Lamar Jackson, the last several weeks, has turned it on. It's not the same Lamar Jackson that we saw most of the season where he's like, well, when is this guy going to turn it on in fantasy? And he has turned it on the last few weeks and had a great playoff game last weekend. So it's going to be tough to stop him. But you're right. I like the Bills just because I like Josh Allen. I hate the Ravens. I just hate their team. I hate everything about them. I just want them to lose. I don't want them to win another championship. I hate their coach. It's like I could go on and on and on. But Buffalo, I do like them. I do like Josh Allen. Now it's interesting because they're both two running quarterbacks. Now I wonder, are they gonna, because they're so familiar with running quarterbacks, maybe in practice and whatnot, will that kind of offset the two quarterbacks a little bit? This is the toughest. This is the toughest matchup of all the games. I think this is the one where it's a toss up for me. I don't know who's going to win, but I'll certainly be rooting for the Bills. That's for sure.
And the only thing that favors the Bills is if you're right, like the defenses are already used to practicing against a running quarterback on their team. Even if you contain Josh Allen, I have more confidence that he can throw the ball deep and be more consistent as a pass thrower, than Lamar Jackson. We've seen Lamar Jackson, when you just need him to win with his arm, he struggles sometimes. Now, some weeks, like he's almost like a totally different quarterback. I don't know what changed. They never said he was injured in the beginning of half of the season. I don't know what changed, but you're right. Like something changed with him.
Yeah.
And now he's throwing touchdowns. Like he's a totally different quarterback than what we saw. And I can't figure out they didn't get like a different running back. Nothing really changed.
Yeah. Well, what I heard on the broadcast during that playoff game, they were talking about how throughout the season they were trying to hold him back a little bit from running the ball. They wanted to turn him into a little bit more of a pocket passer. And then eventually they just said, look, we need to just let Lamar Jackson be Lamar Jackson. If we have to set up some runs for him as a quarterback, let's just do that, because that's what makes him the most effective. At least that's what the announcers were saying. And I thought, I didn't really think of that. I thought he was always trying to run with the ball, but maybe not as much. And I think just the last few weeks where he's played great, they just kind of let him go loose. Just let him loose. Just say, hey, just be what you did. Do what you did last year when you were MVP.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the difference. Maybe that's what's
working. And he's making that schmuck Hollywood Brown look like a great receiver at the second half of the year. Every time I looked over, he's scoring touchdowns. And Des Bryant is scoring touchdowns with Lamar Jackson.
Yes. Des Bryant is on the team. That's insane.
Can you imagine if he wins a ring with the Ravens? Holy crap. Comes out from not playing for so many years. That'd be an interesting little side story. But I like what you're saying. I like Allen's. I like Diggs. The weakness for the Bills is if Lamar Jackson is running, they don't have a great run defense. So there could be some problems there. But the Bills are one of those teams. Some games they look so dominant, and then some games they look like they don't even belong there. So it'll be interesting to see what Bills team shows up. I want the Bills to win. I have this like gnawing feeling, well, it's the Bills. They're going to screw it up. And I think Baltimore squeezes out of this one. That's my prediction. Baltimore's going to squeeze out a win in Buffalo, which is going to be heartbreaking. But it just seems that Bills franchise is that type of franchise that's just can't win. Like it's just
they haven't gone over the hump yet. They're
gonna have those heartbreaking. Yeah, they're cursed.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong, because I am rooting for them from the AFC. That's the team I want to see go into the Super Bowl, because I think it'll just be crazy. And I think the trash talking, because I have friends from Buffalo that I work with and are friends, it would be fun to trash talk, and I'm going to get an earful because of all the years of shitting on them with Brady. But anyways, it just makes it all fun. If you can see it, Big Meat, I'm drinking my Buffalo Love from Buffalo Cup when I was in Buffalo for a work meeting. I got that from one of my coworkers. So, yep, I'll be wearing my Buffalo gear for that game Saturday night. All right, so let's move.
While eating some buffalo wings as well.
There you go.
Guessing.
I'll be in full spirit. And who knows? I might get a Josh Allen jersey if it's gonna be my number 1 pick next year, or number 2.
There you go.
Number 2, the second round. All right,
we're gonna have to save that for the next podcast during the quarterback segment.
Yes, that's right. We don't want to jump the gun too early on that one.
Right.
All right. So Sunday at 3:00 is the Browns and Chiefs. And for those who don't know, it's going to be on CBS. That's that channel for that game. The Ravens and Bills is a Saturday night game, so that's on NBC. Just for those who don't know. And Fox is doing no surprise, Fox is doing the Packers and the Rams. NBC is Fox is Troy Aikman. He'll most likely be doing that game, right, with the Packers. That's that broadcast team, the Troy Aikman team. Is that broadcast?
I believe Fox? So. And CBS is the Tony Romo.
Tony Romo, right?
Yeah.
And NBC would be the Chris Collinsworth, right? And Al Michaels. Would they be doing that game?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So, that's interesting. So anyway, before I jump that, so the Browns and Chiefs on Sunday afternoon. It's another one. It's like, I just don't believe in the Browns. I just think the Chiefs are too talented.
The Browns is the Browns. Azar, you repeating what Juju has said before their game last week?
Well,
Browns is the Browns.
I'm not shocked the Browns beat Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh was really not playing that well for the second half of the season. Something happened with Pittsburgh. They just completely crumbled.
Yeah. They were kind of they were fraudulent. They were fraudulent all season, even when they went undefeated. They didn't really beat any good teams, and even some of the games that they won, they kind of barely squeaked by. And I don't know. I just kind of saw the writing on the wall. I just didn't really believe in them all that much. But
and I hate Pittsburgh fans. So
that
humiliating loss felt good. It was a nice loss.
It did. Very similar to the Ravens. I feel the same type of hatred towards both those organizations.
Anybody that was a Patriot nemesis, you look forward to their failure, right? Like the Colts losing made you feel good. Like I don't want to see that franchise be happy. Screw them, right?
It's true. Sure.
More like, I don't hate the Colts as much as I hate the Steelers, and I hated the Ravens, because the Ravens coach is just a whiny. I did like to go back to that. Like, the Ravens coach is the whiniest coach.
Oh yeah.
He'll find every reason to explain why he lost, because of some Belichick rule breaking, like whatever nonsense. And no, just Belichick knows the rule book better than you. He just outsmarted you, and it burns him. But anyways, I don't know how competitive this game's going to be. I feel like I love Patrick Mahomes, but I think there's just so much firepower on the Chiefs. I just don't see how they're going to keep up, because to ask Baker Mayfield to keep up with Mahomes, I don't think he has it in him. I just don't.
Yeah, this is another easy victory for me for the Chiefs. I think the Browns, going into this year, they turned into more of a run-first offense, and it worked for them all season, right? They gave the ball a lot to Chubb. They gave it to Hunt. And Mayfield was a little bit of a game manager, but when he needed to come in and perform, he had a couple of big games there. He had like a 5-touchdown game at one point. So he was able to perform better, but I think it's leaning on that running game. When you're trying to rely on trying to beat the Chiefs offense by trying to run the ball, that's a difficult task. I just don't see the Chiefs losing this game, and even Cleveland being up 28-0 against the Steelers, and then barely, well, not barely, but like by the end of the score, it was 48-37. Like, the Steelers made a game of it. And so, and I think Roethlisberger played terrible, and Cleveland, that first snap, the first play of the game, right? The guy snapped the ball over Roethlisberger's head, and Cleveland jumped on it in the end zone and scored a touchdown. It was kind of like, all right, from there it was all downhill. The Steelers or the Chiefs are not the Steelers. I think the Chiefs are going to be in there. They're going to be prepared. I don't see the Browns being able to match, firepower for firepower with the Kansas City Chiefs. I just don't see it happening.
I agree. I would be shocked if you put the game in Baker Mayfield's hand, and it's a talent thing. Like once you take the game away from Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and now you're going to rely on Baker to throw the ball, is, you know, I know they played better without Odell Beckham, but I just don't think they have enough receivers to make that much of an impact. You know, they don't have like this, like Patrick Mahomes has so many options beyond, like not just Tyreek Hill. He's got the best tight end who's like basically a stud receiver in Travis Kelce. You know, they make Sammy Watkins look good, which is hard to do, but they still make Sammy Watkins look good on that team. So I just think I'd be shocked, and I think as bad as Clyde at the Fresh Prince of Hilaire there, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, as bad as he was from fantasy perspective, he did the job, I guess, for them as a running back. Like
he was effective when he needed to be. I don't, he's not the problem on the team. It's their offense. They're going to score points. They're going to score points. Kelce had probably one of the greatest. I mean, he definitely had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, season for a tight end. And it just seemed like the second half of the year, he was 100 yards and a touchdown. It seemed like it was just a given every single week.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill was unbelievable. I mean, Mahomes is Mahomes. It's like there's so much to go around, and CEH is just one of those guys that are there that could kill you. Like he could end up having this monster game in the playoffs and be like, they based their entire game plan to try to get CEH the ball. So the only thing that would be more shocking is if the Rams beat the Packers. That's the only other thing shock. So the Chiefs, they're there. They're in the AFC Championship. Mark it down. That's going to happen.
But see, I think it's the same thing with. So the Rams have the best defense. Like would I be totally blown away if the Rams defense found a way to contain Rodgers? No, I wouldn't. I mean, they have Donaldson. Donaldson's on the Rams, right? I'm not.
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald. I know. I kept on saying Donaldson doesn't sound right. Why is that? It doesn't sound right. But Aaron Donald, right? One of the best defensive linemen in the game, right?
Yeah, so he might be the best.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard people say he's going to go down as one of the best players in history from a defensive perspective. And like if they can get Rodgers flustered, would I be shocked that the Rams upset them? No, because the defense is that good. But I just feel like just the Rams just don't have it just depends on what Rams team shows up. So I can see them. I just see Goff under the spotlight choking the game away. Like I just don't believe in Goff as a winner. And I think Rodgers is a winner. Like he will find a way to win. He'll get the ball to Adams somehow. He'll make those crazy plays that he does. He'll just throw it up to Adams. And so just because Rodgers is a winner. So I'm just going to lock that in. So let's move on to speaking of winners. And this is going to be the most interesting game. We're both in agreement that the Chiefs are going to win. So the next game is New Orleans and Green Bay. I mean, New Orleans and Tampa Bay. That is going to be an epic showdown of two 40-year-old quarterbacks going toe-to-toe. And it is amazing to think that we're in a time now where two 40-year-old quarterbacks could potentially lead their team into not only the NFC Championship, but potentially to another Super Bowl at their age. It is staggering. And they're probably, I don't know if Drew Brees, like he's not in the same class as Brady because of all the rings, but I heard people say Drew Brees is going to finish as one of the top quarterbacks. Some even said top 5. I don't know about top 5, but maybe with his numbers, maybe he'll be like the top 5 quarterback of all time. And which is,
I would think so. Top 5. I mean, the fact is that he's won the ring already too. It's like you got to put him in that list. Maybe if he didn't win the ring, maybe they could say, But Brees is he had so many 5,000-yard seasons. He's been doing it for so long. He's been durable.
Yeah.
And the Saints, even though they won one Super Bowl in his career, they've won a lot of games. They've been a good team almost every year. And he's been putting up huge numbers. I mean, him and Brady were neck and neck with touchdown passes. And then Brees got hurt, right, with the ribs thing that he had earlier this year. And then Brady kind of leapfrogged. They were kind of going back and forth, right? Brady had more, and then Brees had more, and then it was just kind of back and forth. And then Brady kind of surpassed him. It's an interesting matchup. This is going to be a tough matchup, but I I think with the Buccaneers, I think with Brady in particular, he, went to a new team. Antonio Brown didn't join them until later in the season. I can't remember exactly what week he actually made, week 7 or whatever. I forget exactly what it was, week 8. And then it took a little time for him to get going. It took a little time for Gronk to get back into shape again.
Yeah.
Godwin had an issue with his finger, right? His finger was broken, so he was kind of like wrapped up for a portion of the season. Evans always seemed to have like little nicks and bruises. He had a little thing with his knee early on in the year. I think now the entire team is healthy. I think Godwin's finger issue is over. Gronk is found his stride there and is like in better football shape. Antonio Brown seems to be kicking it on. I think the fact that you see Brady, the way he's throwing in the playoff game and then the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, he's been performing great. I just think it's a different offense now than it was at the beginning of the season. And sure, Breeze is Breeze. The Saints are going to be great. And I think this is going to be a close game. And the Saints, they beat the Bucs the first game of the season and then completely demolished them in the second game of the season. If you remember that 38-3 game, where it might have been Brady's worst game of his career. It was that bad.
Yeah.
Now it's game 3. Brady has never lost to the same team 3 times in a season. It's never happened. And so I think it's a different team. I think the Bucs are a different team now than the last time they faced, and the Saints are going to be the Saints. They're still going to be good. I think the Bucs beat the Saints. I think the Bucs make it to the NFC Championship. I think it's going to be the Bucs and the Packers. That's who it's going to be.
Wow.
And it's going to be such a great matchup because you never see Brady and Breeze in the playoffs. They were always in different conferences, right? They never met each other in the Super Bowl. This is going to be an historical matchup. I know Brady has that.
Go ahead. I say you agree. Say it's the Clash of the Titans. Go ahead. I know you.
Clash of the Titans. Yes, I like it. But it is funny with Brady put on his social media where he had a picture of him as like an old man and Breeze as an old man. Have you seen it? I saw
that. Yeah, I did. I see it. I saw it.
And it's like, that's what it is. It's like 2 old guys out there, but they're still playing great. So it's it'll be a fun match. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most out of all the matchups.
I just kind of going back to what you're saying. I actually will say it right now. I actually have it being Green Bay, New Orleans in the NFC Championship. And the reason is not just because New Orleans has been able to dominate the Bucs all season so far, but they've also the New Orleans hasn't been all at full strength with all their talent either. Last week was the first time the announcers kept on reminding everybody that this is the first time they've been all together, full strength, everybody's healthy and feeling good and ready to go. So I think, as great as Mike Evans is, and he's had a great year, and Godwin, I just think between Kamara and Michael Thomas, and even Cook as their tight end. I know Gronk is historically a better tight end, but I think Cook he plays a big part in that end zone for them. I think the Saints have more talent right now. And it's going to be tough for Brady. Brady's going to keep it close. And here's my X factor. It's not the talent that I'm picking the Saints over the Bucs. It's the coaching. I think Sean Payton is a better coach, and I think Bruce Arians is going to find a way. He's going to make it cute. He's going to do something. He's going to screw it up. I just don't think Bruce Arians is the winning coach. He's got like that Jared Goff. There's something about him. He's got that. You know what he's got? He's got that Andy Reid stank on him for he could never get over that hump, and it took him forever to get over that hump. I don't think this is the year he's going to actually. Bruce Arians is going to get that stank off of him.
Even with Tom Brady at quarterback, isn't Tom Brady has been around so long and he's just kind of out there just doing his thing? And
I think New Orleans is going to I think they're going to try to rattle Brady, and we've seen how he gets if he's. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette can bail him out. He's not going to get that run support to help bail him out. I think he's going to have to win it on his arm alone. And I think the Saints are going to come at him hard, and I think it's going to be tough for him to overcome it.
Yeah. So, you could be right. I think it's going to be a close matchup. I think this one's going to be pretty close. similar to the Ravens and Bills, where that's I think gonna come down to the wire. I think this is gonna be a similar thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's anywhere near the last time they played against each other, I mean, it wasn't even a contest.
Yeah. And they might have learned. They might have learned what they did wrong. Yeah. I just feel like, especially when you have like these interdivision matchups, they know each other so well. They tend to be lower scoring games. They're more physical. I just think if you need to rely on that physical game, I just see between Kamara and Kamara is like at another level right now, from a running back perspective, and Drew Brees. He's not even the strength of the team like he used to be. Like I think it's just going to be Kamara. I think Kamara is going to have a big game. He's gonna help them win this game. But I could be wrong. I could see it. Would I be shocked if Brady won? No, because he's like Rodgers. He's just like this natural winner. Like something about him, he can pull you out from defeat. Like he can just find a way to win. And I want to root for Brady. I just feel like the Saints. I think the Saints are going to pull this one off. So it's gonna be, and again, it's gonna be two old quarter. Rodgers
it is interesting. Brees. It's interesting that you say, Brees is the winning quarterback. He's the one that's gonna pull it out. Like,
I didn't say Brees. I said Kamara is gonna be why they.
Oh,
win.
okay. All right.
If they win, Tom Brady is why the Bucs won. There's no question.
So we disagree with the NFC Championship. You're saying the Saints Packers. I say Bucks Packers. Yep. But we agree in the AFC. Did we say clearly the did you say the Ravens? You said
it's gonna be the Ravens and the Chiefs in the NFC Championship.
Definitely the Chiefs. Yeah. I would say the Ravens too. I think the Ravens pull it off too. You're right. Yeah.
There's just something about them in the playoffs. Baltimore finds a way. And the beauty about Baltimore, they'll choke in the AFC Championship. So I'm locking in. It's going to be the Chiefs back in the Super Bowl. I'm going to say it right now. Here's my prediction. Chiefs will be back in the Super Bowl. And easy thing to say is Green Bay.
A tough one. I know it's tough.
It'd be easy to say.
But isn't that's not okay? So you get the two bye week teams, the number one seeds in each conference. Like,
I bet you New Orleans. I could see New Orleans and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Two Southern teams. I'm going to say it. I'll say it. And wow, now I got to call that.
Chiefs. Who's going to win it?
That's a good one.
It's tough.
You know what? The Chiefs were so I didn't feel like they were the same team as last year. I'm going to go out and say I don't know. Something about them this year didn't feel
I don't know. I think the Chiefs are better. I think the Chiefs are better this year than they were last year.
You think so?
I do, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do. I think they were better. The Chiefs last year, if you remember, Mahomes was up and down. He wasn't having that great of a year. Then he got hurt and he was out for a couple of games.
That's
and
true.
It was like
that's true.
It was just kind of back. He didn't have like the MVP type year. Remember, Lamar Jackson won the MVP. So when they went into the playoffs, they're like, could they redeem themselves from the loss of the Patriots from the season before?
Yeah.
They played great and they went on winning it. This year, Mahomes was consistent all throughout. Tyreek Hill had his best year ever. Kelsey had his best year ever.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're
they had a better year. I think they had a better year. They just didn't seem like anybody could really compete with them. But my prediction, so you say the Chiefs, I'll let you ponder that who's going to win between the Saints and Chiefs. I think the Bucks. I still think the Bucks. You kind of called it at the beginning of this podcast. I think the Bucks. I think Tom Brady's going to come in. He's going to beat Brees. He's going to beat Rodgers. And I'm going to call it. He's also going to beat Mahomes.
Wow. Now, I'm a Tampa Bay Buck fan. Everybody knows. I'll be wearing my Mike Allstott jersey for the Super Bowl if the Bucks are in the Super Bowl.
I think it's one of those years. I think it's one of those. I think he's going to come. I think he's going to win it. He's going to win his 7th. And it's going to be crazy. And I think some people in New England will hate it. Some people will love it. I'm one of the people that will love it. I hope he does win it, and being a Brady fan my whole, career, my whole life, it's like he's since his career anyway, but I want him to win it because then people can't say like, oh, was it Belichick or was it Brady? Because Brady could still win it this year. He could retire. Whatever happens next year, right? They might not make the playoffs next year and he retires, but he won a Super Bowl with them. Belichick's still going to be around. If he can rebuild the Patriots and then maybe in a few years get them back into, yes, to be one of the better elite teams in the league, and then he ends up winning another Super Bowl, then it's like, okay, what can you say then? You can't say, oh, was it Belichick or was it Brady? It was both of them. Brady left, he won a Super Bowl. Belichick won another Super Bowl without Brady. So I just don't want that. I don't like that whole argument like between like, oh, who was it? Like I hope Brady wins it. So I'm a fan of Brady to win it, but I also feel that I think the way they've been playing, I think it's setting up for Brady to win another one. Yeah, that's bold. I think it's a bold thing to say because I think the Chiefs are looking unstoppable right now, but I just feel like it's going to come into the playoffs and into the Super Bowl, and I think Brady could pull it off. But we'll see. Am I convinced it's going to happen? No, but that's my gut feeling.
I don't think it's it's not bad, and I think a lot of people, because we're from New England, would like to see it. I just see, the more I think about it, I feel like this is the year the Saints win. I think Breeze is going to finish. This is the year he retires. He's going to finish on that high note. And I just believe in Sean Payton. He's a good coach. They can be a very physical team when they want to be. And I think, oh man, to pick against the Chiefs is so tough. But I'm going to say that New Orleans surprises everybody and wins it again. They repeat this year. Not all repeat, right. But they go back into the Super Bowl and win it. And people might be like, oh my God, you're betting against Rodgers. I don't know. It's something about Green Bay. It's all on Rodgers. I mean, he's got Devontae Adams, but I just feel like this is going to be New Orleans. It's their year.
Rodgers, I think, is going to be MVP this year. I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, why not Josh Allen? Putting a team to be MVP. I think Rodgers is going to be MVP. I think he's going to. I think the fact that he came back after having a couple of down years, the last couple of years, and I think Rodgers is great. I think that's why I think he's going to end up in the NFC Championship easily. But yeah, I think it would be saying something about Brady at 43 years old to beat Drew Brees, then beat Aaron Rodgers, and then beat Patrick Mahomes. That would be a story. That would be a hell of a story. Yeah,
and it's funny because at the beginning of the year we were all that controversy with him and his new coach, and he's going to be talking himself out of Green Bay and stuff like that. It's actually an interesting year because it's tough. You can't root against Rodgers because he's a likable quarterback. Mm-hmm. You don't want to root against Breeze because he's a likable quarterback. I know a lot of people hate Tom Brady, but we would obviously root for Tom Brady. I wouldn't be miserable if any one of them won it. I think either way it's going to be. And I like Mahomes, and I like Josh Allen, and I'm not sure how I feel about Lamar Jackson yet. Like, he's still, to me, like Baker Mayfield. They're still young. They still have plenty of time to win it again. So that's interesting. I guess it's no matter who gets into the Super Bowl, I'm in. I mean, I'm interested in it because I like the teams that are in it. It's not going to. The only thing that I would hate if we're all wrong and Jared Goff is in the Super Bowl again. I was
going to say that. You wouldn't be happy if you see the Rams in there.
Yeah, if the Rams are in it against the Chiefs, is it even worth? Like, I'll just watch the commercials and say, all right, because it's going to be a shit show. Just because I hate. That's the one team I don't want to see. I don't want to see the Browns make it to the Super Bowl. Like, that's a team.
Imagine the Rams and Browns. Although the Browns would be kind of nice because they've been suffering for so long.
You feel for the franchise. But as a team, I don't know if I really care about Jarvis. Like, who on the team do you really care about? Yeah. Like, it's just only thing that would help is Jarvis with his Nick Chubb argument versus Sony Michel. Like, that would just help him just beat the over the head R3 and stuff like that. So
I like Nick Chubb.
All right. So you're picking the Bucs. I'm saying the Saints in the Super Bowl are going to win it. So we're saying Chiefs. I'm saying Chiefs Saints. You're saying Chiefs Bucs.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You heard it. I'm sure we're going to get critiqued. We're going to get laughed at if we're wrong, but we're making our predictions right now, and we're not And we're bucking the obvious. Like it'd be easy for us to say the Chiefs are winning it all or Rodgers is winning it all.
You want to go a little
there.
bold. You
We're
want to
going
go a
out
little
brutal.
bold. And you do know that if Jarvis was here, we could just go ahead and just say it.
Yeah.
Right?
Jarvis
He's thinking Chiefs, Packers, right? And the Packers are going to win it.
Yeah.
So we would all have 3 different teams. None of them being the Chiefs. And watch, the Chiefs are going to be the ones that end up winning the whole thing. So we'll all be wrong.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe the Browns will upset. Maybe there'll be a shock. Shocker.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Unlikely. But
Don't
hey,
count on it.
You never know. It's the NFL. You never know.
Browns is the Browns.
Hey, the other thing, the X factor in the whole thing too is, the Browns overcame the COVID outbreak right during the playoffs. Like, right, they had to overcome that. The coach wasn't even there. So everybody's okay right now, right? They all got infected and they're ready to go. Anybody could all of a sudden have a COVID outbreak on Green Bay or the Buccaneers or the Saints, and then all of a sudden your season's out the door. So there is an X factor that you never know. There could be a COVID outbreak.
It is interesting how the NFL will treat that, and how they'll go about it, because in the regular seasons, one thing, who was it? Was it Denver, where they had no quarterback and they had some wide receiver from the practice squad come up and be a quarterback? I can't imagine that happening in the playoffs. Could you imagine that? Could they be oh?
No, it
yeah,
has to.
I guess so. Right? I mean, they can't just postpone everything. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, they would just have to play them.
Yep, they'll have to deal with it.
This point of the season,
they benched a coach. They benched a coach with COVID, and I didn't understand. I thought it was really reasonable. Why can't he zoom in during the game? Why can't he be engaged?
Right.
Like if he was in the booth.
That's true.
Why couldn't he be in the booth on his own? What if he just quarantined himself in a booth or in a hotel and just stayed there? What's the big deal? And
honestly, if I was a coach and I had COVID and it was in a situation like that, a playoff game, I'd say, give me a hazmat suit. I'll put a suit on, like an astronaut. I'll look like an astronaut, and just throw me out there so at least I could call the plays and do my job. You only do it for a few hours, whatever. I'll never take it off.
Yeah. Why not?
Wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you, at that point in your career, you're trying to bring your team to the Super Bowl, and you make that sacrifice.
You wear the Andy Reid shield and mask,
everything,
and all that crap.
Everything, just one big bubble. You just one big bubble.
Why not?
Nobody could get to you. No, you can't get to them. That's it. But you still have your mic. You can talk, with your coaches and your players. And
speaking of bubbles, a little sidebar is there's a brewery up in Londonderry, New Hampshire called 603 Brewery, and they actually have a restaurant or pub or whatever you want to call it outside the brewery, and they actually have outdoor seating. And my wife and I drove by it, and they actually have these bubble igloos for each individual table.
Yep.
And I was dying laughing. First of all, you're basically zipping in people in a bubble, and COVID spreads in an indoor tight environment. So hopefully you're not with someone whoever you're with, you're close and they don't have COVID, because it seems like
it's got to be your own party, though. I can't imagine it's other.
Yeah, but what if the waitress? What if she has COVID? Or what if you guys have and this poor person is going to serve you in a COVID bubble?
You're just breathing in that recycled air. They have those bubbles at in downtown Lowell at Fuse. It's across from Tremonte Pizza. Yeah, they have a couple of them outside, and I found out that they charge. You could use them, but you have to spend a minimum of $100. So you can't just go and just get a couple of drinks and say, I'm going to sit out on this little bubble. And I think it might even be heated as well.
I thought it was. It looked like
it is. Yeah, I think it's heated and it's outside, right? So but you have to spend a minimum of $100. I don't know if that's the same thing at the 603 bar that
I didn't
to, but
I did check it out. I thought it was a fun idea.
Yeah,
but then I thought of it I don't know if I trust the waitress to be in a confined bubble with me.
That is true. Yeah,
she's bouncing from bubble to bubble, and then she's gonna come into my bubble breathing, and she gets to leave and then leave the COVID with me in the bubble. So I'm not a big fan of it.
Unless there's a little window, right? It's like a little window, she just opens it up and gives. It's like a prison, you just gotta slide the tray in. There you go, close it again.
Might as well get a snorkel tube and just breathe that way during the thing to get some fresh air in.
They tell you to like back up against the wall. Just be like,
Yeah.
all right, back up while I give the food.
Oh, the crazy times you live in right now.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of crazy times, so I'm excited. I don't know why. I'm already into fantasy 2021, so I'm already reading as much as I can for the new season. So we're getting.
We should do the draft lottery right now.
I was thinking that. I know we wait till the 4th to do the
Yeah,
draft.
screw everybody else. Let's just do it, me and you, right
do
now.
it right now. Yeah, why not? We should just do like a big Zoom podcast and do it all at once. But I think when COVID, I'll be open to if COVID ends for a reason to get together. Like they finally say, hey, it's safe to be out, to go to some bar, outdoor bar, restaurant, and just get together and use that as an excuse and maybe do our draft right there, like draft drawing, just to give us a reason to get together and celebrate, something to look forward to, because this long year of COVID. But so it has been a strange year, and no shocker, there's always a lot of turnover in the NFL when it comes to coaches. Some I was kind of surprised so quickly. Like I'll gonna be honest, I was kind of surprised the Chargers coach was fired so quickly. Wasn't he just put in there not that long ago? Like, and he just got this young rookie quarterback, and they didn't really give him a chance.
Yeah,
Like
a couple years.
So I don't get
maybe 3 years.
No, it wasn't 3 years because he had that other quarterback.
You're talking about the Chargers.
The Chargers. Right? Yeah. Their coach.
I thought it might have been 3 years.
No way.
Maybe even
because that was the year, because they had a black head coach, and there was a lot of controversy because they fired him, and it was a year that a lot of black head coaches were fired all in the same year, and he was one of them. And I thought that was only a couple years ago, and we were all wondering if Tomlin was going to get fired, and that would have made it even worse because they would have pretty much fired almost all the black quarterbacks in the league. I mean, head coaches. But I'd have to look it up. But I thought he's only been there for a couple of years, at most.
Yeah, it was Anthony Lynn, was the coach.
Was the coach that was fired a couple of years ago, right?
No, it was the coach that just got fired.
Oh, it was Anthony Lynn? Okay. So how long did they say he was there?
Yeah, 4 years, 2017. So 2017, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, it was 4 years. He was there.
Oh, yeah. Man, is time flying by that much? Holy crap.
Yeah, he was the guy, like he came in and then they had a couple of bad years. He was actually the one I was actually most surprised about because they drafted Herbert, who had a really good rookie year for a QB. And I thought, okay, now they've got like a foundation to build around, and it's going to take some time to develop him and the team around him. I'm surprised they just fired him just after the year that they had. I mean,
so Anthony Lynn was fired this year, and he wasn't fired. Man, I thought he was wasn't he? I thought he was in that group that was all fired a couple of years ago.
No, he was coaching the last 4 years for the Chargers.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I must mistake him for another head coach. I thought he was let go a couple of years ago in that class of coaches that were let go all at the same time. But maybe he survived it. Maybe I misunderstood. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was another crowd. Maybe he was like the one guy, because I remember they were talking about it at the time, and they said, "Oh, everybody got fired except for him. He was like the last one that didn't get fired." Okay. But yeah, no, he's one of them. He's the biggest surprise to me for all of them.
And I thought I know they didn't have a great season, but I thought they were up and coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I thought they had a great quarterback to build around, and they seemed like they had some right pieces. I just seemed like it seemed like Herbert is the next great quarterback that you're going to see for years, because he had such a great rookie year. And he outshined guys like Burrow and Tua and some of the other quarterbacks that were drafted before him.
Yeah,
and I think he was like 5th overall pick. So yeah, he had a great year, and it's not like he was loaded with talent around him. Like, who are all the receivers that he was throwing to?
Well, Keenan Allen.
Sure, yeah, but he's kind of old now, and he was, we all thought healthy. Keenan Allen was kind of on the downside of his career. It was Mike Williams. There's a couple other guys, but nobody ever really thought he had that much talent to throw to him. It wasn't like he had a Tyreek Hill or
he's got a good tight
Adams
end. It's Hunter Henry, right?
Hunter Henry. Yeah, I mean, he's good, but I mean, was he one of the best tight ends this year?
No. It's not.
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I'm just saying, like, he just didn't. It wasn't like he was loaded with talent, and he still threw 30 touchdown passes for a rookie, which I believe has never been done before. I
yeah,
don't think a rookie quarterback has ever thrown for 30 touchdown passes. He was the first. So
yeah, and even
yeah, he
the
had a
running
good
game,
year.
it's Eckler, and I mean, it's not a very dominant running back. He's a good running back, but he's
And
not
he got
dominant.
hurt. He
Yeah,
wasn't even there for
yeah,
most of the games, I think.
yeah. So it is interesting that you think with everything on the upswing, why shake the coach and get rid of him now? The Lions was no surprise. The
Yeah.
Lions, Matt Patricia it seemed like he was hated from day one,
Yeah,
and
that
they wanted
wasn't.
him out of there. The Texans, Bill Bryant, like, not a shocker. Like, he just doesn't seem like he can get them over the hump. Like, I don't know. Like, he's got talent, and some
Yeah.
of the moves that were made,
Yeah.
getting rid of Hawkins and all the stuff that they did just didn't make sense. They got rid of Lamar Miller to bring in another old David Johnson, like another broken down back, and it's like, all right, you're not really helping Deshaun Watson
Yeah.
here. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, not surprised by that one either.
and they actually played better in the second half under Romeo Cornell, surprisingly, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you knew that Romeo was not going to get the job they're not going to
Yeah.
hire him for that job. The Falcons, no shocker, they were just another disappointment. A lot of talent and just can't go anywhere. Eagles, I'm a little surprised by the Eagles. I really am.
They were kind of a mess this year. They were a mess. And there's another team that had a lot of talent the last couple of years. And then, they won the Super Bowl with Foles, and then they had a kind of a good team built around them, and then all of a sudden they went downhill from there. They were
But
messy. They were messy this
but is
year.
it fair to say to him, like, Philly was hit hard with COVID in the beginning, right? So it was a kind of a dysfunctional year. Do you really blame him for having a hard time getting the team on the same footing? Because I just don't know if it was really a coaching issue, or was it like maybe he's getting punished because he held on to Wentz for so long? Because Wentz, like, he put a lot of faith in Wentz, and Wentz was costing him game after game. I know he believed in him, but maybe he should have pulled the plug on Wentz sooner. Would have saved his? Because that whole division, between the Cowboys, the Eagles, they all are terrible. So how much worse was he than every other team in that conference? Like,
Yeah.
they're a terrible conference.
Well, that's why I look at it. The Eagles still had talent. They had talent. They had Miles Sanders. They had some good players there, and they still sucked. Like, that's, to me, it's like you got to look at the coach there and say, look, you have all this talent. Wentz played horrible this year, but I don't think he's as bad of a quarterback as he's shown this year. I think he's a better quarterback than that. He was the number 2 overall pick. I think it was his second year. He was on his way to having like an MVP type year, and then he got the injury. And then Nick Foles took over, and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. And then they said, "All right, we'll get rid of Nick Foles, and we'll put Wentz back in as a starter."
Did you watch some of those games? Did you watch those? He was awful.
He was terrible. It was awful this year. I'm saying he was awful, but I'm saying before this year, he was effective. Like, he was an effective quarterback. The injury, the Super Bowl year that they won it, he was having a great year. And then the injury kind of took him back, and then he's had to kind of build. I just felt like he had, and I'm not trying to take the blame away from Wentz. Like, I think it was Wentz's fault as well. But maybe, and just to talk about this topic here with bringing in another coach, maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he needs a new system. Maybe he needs a new playbook. He needs a new coach. Like, and that will revive him a little bit.
If you're a new coach, right?
Yep.
So this is kind of the fantasy topic. What's fantasy relevant? Like, and what we wanted to talk about was who's going to have immediate, like which team is on the bubble, and if they get a good coach, is going to put them over the edge. Like, who's fantasy relevant in 2021? And versus, I think the Lions, like we'll say the Lions and Jets, they're rebuild projects. So whoever is on that team, I don't know if even whoever coach they get, even if they get one of the if Nick Saban went to that team and said, I'm going to rebuild this team, he can't turn around Detroit right now. There's not enough talent.
Yeah.
I think that's even if Stafford stays there. I think they're going to rebuild. The Jets are a team that will rebuild.
Yeah.
I think like what you're saying,
The
like
Jaguars are a mess. The Jaguars aren't.
yeah, but there's talent there. But again, still rebuild. But I think the Eagles, like if I was coming in, you got Miles Sanders, you need some receiving help, you got an okay defense, and you have Jalen Hurts or Wentz. And you saw what Jalen Hurts did at the second half, though, like the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. Are you really putting him on the bench and giving Wentz another opportunity, or are you finally moving on from Wentz? I thought when you watched Hurts, he was much more electric. And I think get him a good coach, and I think the Eagles can be contending right away because you have a very dynamic quarterback with someone like Miles Sanders out of the backfield who is electric in open field. Like if you get him the ball, he's a great receiving back, and when he gets open, he's got that little shady McCoy about him. Like when he gets open, he can make big plays happen with his feet. So I think they're right on the edge, and I think anybody that goes in there is in a great opportunity. I just think they're going to decide. I just can't see why they'd stay with Wentz and give him another shot.
Yeah, it all depends on the coach that they bring in, whoever they bring in. Yeah, I mean, Hurts, I need to see a little bit more of. I mean, we saw such a small sample of him. And it could end up being kind of a QB battle, quarterback, battle in camp, when the coach comes in and he wants to see, and who knows what ends up happening there. I just think Wentz is still young enough. Like I said, he's a high draft pick, number 2 overall. He's got the talent. He just might need a new system, and maybe it's a new team. Maybe it's not even with the Eagles. Maybe it's with somebody else. So to look at, of all the teams that need coaches, of all the 7 teams that need a coach that I think would make the biggest impact, and I'm not even talking specifically about Wentz. I'm just saying like the Eagles. I think the Eagles are the ones that I think a coach could come in and turn those guys around. I think Miles Sanders, if Jarvis was on, we could even throw in Boston Scott in there. I know how much he loves Boston Scott. They have some young receivers that showed some promise. Like that guy, Jalen Reagor, he was the talk of camp. Like everybody loved that guy. And then he got hurt. Then he got hurt again with another injury, and he never was able to hit his stride. But they loved him in camp. He was kind of like a slash type of player. They would line him up as a running back, as a receiver. He would do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So maybe it is Hurts, but I think that's the team where I feel like there is the most to gain from bringing in a good coach. Because some of the other teams that you could think of, like the Texans, how much better is Watson going to be? Right? Watson already had a good year this year. Like he's already a good quarterback. How much different is he going to be in a fantasy perspective by bringing in a coach? Right? Yeah. Is David Johnson going to be that much better? Is who are the other receivers? Brandon Cooks? Like, I mean, Will Fuller's probably going to end up being gone, right? So it's not like, and they don't have any first or second round pick this year, and they're over the cap. So they gotta make some cuts. People are talking about they might even cut JJ Watt because he's owed like $18 million and none of it's guaranteed. So right off the bat, you could cut JJ Watt and save $18 million. So it doesn't matter what coach you bring in there, they have a lot of work to do. We talked about the Lions, the Jaguars, the Jets. They're a ways away. That leaves the Chargers and the Falcons. And again, the Chargers, right? Herbert's good. How much better is he going to be with a new coach coming in? Maybe Eckler maybe if he stays healthy, he could continue to be great. The Falcons, yeah, Matt Ryan's getting old. Julio Jones is done. I mean, it's just, maybe you could say Calvin Ridley continue to progress. That's why it all comes down to the Eagles. Because who on the Eagles actually had a great year? Miles Sanders was okay, right? He was good, but he wasn't that great. Maybe a new coach could come in. Maybe a run-first coach might come in and say, hey, forget Wentz. We'll go with Jalen Hurts. We'll run the ball with Miles Sanders. We'll end up becoming a little bit like the Ravens, right? We'll run the ball. We'll have a running quarterback. That's where you could end up seeing some fantasy relevance with a lot of those players on it.
Yeah. No, if from a fantasy relevant teams, I'm with you. I think the Chargers, the Falcons still have some good players that fantasy relevant, and the Eagles definitely do. Yeah, I mean, there's good players on each one of those teams, but I think when a coach comes in, where with the unknown of that, if we don't know who that coach is, I think those teams are going to be in good shape. I just think a new coach can come into the Jets. I just don't know how much he's going to be able to change and turn around the Jets next year and make them fantasy relevant and make them like a high-powered offense. I don't see the Jags becoming a high-powered offense with a new coach right away. And I feel the same way with the line. The only thing that would be interesting, John, is the Texans. I know Deshaun Watson is good, and he's proved he's good with not a lot of talent around him. What if they actually bring in a head coach? Because Bill O'Brien was established to run kind of quarter, like running, like he is that old fashioned, wanted to run the ball and determined to run the ball. Like his game plan seemed kind of like stupid sometimes. It feels like they didn't give Deshaun Watson a lot of opportunities. If they get a coach that goes in there and lets Watson be Watson and puts the games more on his back and puts some talent around him, I think Deshaun Watson can get to another gear with the good coach. I just think Bill O'Brien just didn't use him consistently the right way. That was the problem with Watson is Bill O'Brien. There were some games you're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not letting Watson throw the ball or just get as many attempts? It was weird play calling sometimes. So I think the right coach would help Watson get to the next level. So
yeah, it could, but we've seen Watson have great games and great years. I mean, that one year I remember a few years ago, right, when he tore his ACL in practice. I mean, he was dominant. I mean, he was just having an unbelievable year, and then to come back from that injury this year, surprisingly, they lose Hopkins, and he still puts up good numbers. He was a top 5 quarterback for fantasy. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see maybe he ends up being top 2 or top 3. He ends up taking it to that next level. But if you're talking about the biggest fantasy impact for somebody, Houston, I don't know. I don't know if that's there's not like a receiver there that I'm saying could take that next level up. I don't think David Johnson's going to be the next running back.
Well, if they
say,
they
he's going to
resign
be great.
Steroid Boy, if Will Fuller comes back, I don't say it was steroids. Okay. I say it allegedly, whatever he was, performance enhancing.
He's your boy, so you don't want to.
Well, he was having a great year, and now we know
negativity
why.
on him.
Yeah, but I mean,
he had a great. He had his best year. Yeah, he had his best year of his career. So and I know O'Brien left. He got fired earlier in the season, and maybe I don't know, but I just don't think the Texans. And like I said earlier, they don't have a first round pick. They lose it to Miami. They got the 3rd overall pick. That must burn them too. Must be like shit. We had the 3rd worst team. We had the 3rd overall pick, and we can't even pick a player.
Yeah.
Let's go into Miami. That must hurt. They don't even have a 2nd round pick. So if you're talking about a coach, maybe down the road, maybe 2-3 years from now, maybe that's something else because now you got free agency, you got other stuff. But this coming year, I don't see it. I think they're going to take a step back. They're going to cut players. There's going to be a new coach that comes in. They're going to start like I said earlier, J.J. Watt. They might just cut him and just say, look, I know you're the face of the franchise, but we got to get under the cap. Like we're over the cap right now, and we don't have any early picks. Like there's nothing we could do but just cut some key players. There's talk about trading Watson away, like that there's been some rumors going on there. I think the coach is going to come in, they're just going to blow it up completely. I don't think the Texans are going to be anywhere near what we saw of the Texans this year. It's going to be a completely different team.
Yeah, and it is possible they won't even be fantasy relevant at all. And Watson could be on another team. He could be on the Patriots if we're lucky.
Yeah.
I would love to see Watson in a Patriots uniform. That would be a dynamic offense.
Well, there's the meme out there where it shows Bill Belichick calling Nick Caserio, right? And he's like, all right, Operation Watson in effect. Yeah. Caserio's like, I'm on it. Yeah, so they're like, there might work something out there where maybe Watson does go to the Patriots. Who knows?
Oh man, that would be a dream come true for New England if we can get someone like Watson on here. It's still early. Let's we're touching on the subject because we're trying to get into more in-depth fantasy stuff. We're letting everybody know here are the openings. Here's what we're seeing, and we're going to spend some time on it. Like once the coaches start getting hired, I want to spend more time on it and talk about from a fantasy relevance. Like, is this coach going to make an impact on these teams? And are they going to be like a Miami offense where all of a sudden, like this head coach, it was the head coach that changed Miami and made them almost a playoff contender this year. So a coach can make a difference if it's the right coach. And he's I like that coach down in Miami. I think given time, if they can get their hands on if the quarterback situation pans out, I think they could be a very dangerous team in the AFC East in the
Oh yeah,
future.
this is exactly what happened with the Browns. Stefanski coming in as the coach, and he was a run first coach, and he said he's gonna come in and say, hey, we're not gonna go back to smash mouth football. He's got a great running back. He had two good running backs,
Yeah.
and he built up his offensive line. He took the free agent tackle there that came from Tennessee, Conklin, right? And then they drafted high for an offensive lineman in the draft. So like they built that team around their offensive line and running the ball, and it worked for them.
Yeah. And Baker Mayfield had a much better year.
But and that's exactly like to your point, the coach that comes in that has that type of philosophy that's a huge fantasy. That's an implication. That makes or breaks your fantasy, the players that are on that team from a fantasy point of view.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we went into this year, like even looking at the Browns, Mayfield was the guy that they drafted a couple of years ago, and he had a good rookie year, and they had a bad year last year or 2 years ago now. But then this guy gets hired, and now it's like, all right, well, if they're going to run the ball first, Mayfield's going to have a little bit of a down year in terms of his numbers and his stats. That's why I love Nick Chubb coming into this year, even with Kareem Hunt there. And the both of them were great. They were both like relevant in fantasy, and Mayfield wasn't really that relevant in fantasy. Like I said, he had a couple of good games, but if you look at his overall numbers, he wasn't that great. He wasn't top. I don't think he was top 15 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
It was all running the ball, and that's what a coach can do. It's something you got to just keep an eye on. That's why it'd be interesting to see those teams who they end up hiring.
Yeah, it would be interesting, and we're definitely going to spend some time on it because I think a lot of people, when they buy their magazines, don't dive in enough into the coaching part of the thing, like the coaching changes and where they came from and what's their philosophy, and that actually has a huge impact in your fantasy team. Because I mean, like we were all blown away, and I want to make this like the last point so we can get into the main thing we want to talk about in fantasy. But if you looked at the Buffalo Bills as historically, they were never known as a pass first offense. They were always like one of those run heavy offenses. So you thought like Singletary or what's his name? What's the other running backs there? Zach Moss, right?
Zach Moss.
Yeah. I thought going into the season, it's going to be like your typical Buffalo season. That Josh Allen's going to throw. He didn't really do well last year, and they're just going to run. And this year they bring in Diggs, and they are just throwing the ball like crazy. And it's just a totally different offense. And it's just the coaching strategy has changed. They just opened up that offense completely, and they're a totally different team. They don't like when you think of the Bills, you don't think about the running backs anymore. And historically, it used to be. You always thought about the running backs on their offense. And that's the least interesting thing on their team is the running backs. It's actually Allen and Diggs and even Cole Beasley is more exciting as a player than the backs on that team. It's crazy to think that.
Because all the coach, and that's why Diggs went to the Bills. Diggs wanted to leave. He left Minnesota because they were a run first team. And he was like, well, I don't want to stick around if you're going to be running the ball more. I want the ball. And so he went to Buffalo, and everyone just like, really? He went to Buffalo of all places? Yeah. And he was I think he was the most targeted receiver in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was, if not the most targeted, he was up there.
He was up there in the top 2 or 3. Yeah. It's amazing. Like, and that's a coach. That's coach philosophy. So it changes the team completely. So it should be interesting. So moving on from that, because that's something we're just putting on the queue. We're just opening it up, but obviously we can't conclude anything until we see who gets hired, because this really, it's difficult to kind of give a full analysis on it. Yeah. But let's talk about receivers.
And by the way, he was the most targeted receiver.
Okay.
166 targets for the year.
Wow. Yeah. He was amazing this year. Like, and who would have thought with Buffalo that would have happened? So I wanted to touch real quick on, because we're going longer than I ever expect on these podcasts. I always think that they're going to be short ones and end up being long, but
you just can't get us to shut up.
Yeah. Giving content. So top 5 receivers. We talked about running backs who we thought were going to go in the top 5. So we wanted to talk about the top 5 receivers going into 2021. Now, Meat and I decided we wanted to talk about who was drafted this year, at least from our league, right? And who was drafted is kind of consistent. If you looked at magazines, and average draft positions, they're pretty much consistently, these are the people you would expect to have gone. So in 2020, Michael Thomas in our league went number 1, which probably in most leagues probably went number 1. Hopkins, Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Julio Jones were the top 5 receivers. And if you read most magazines, I think that's pretty much there. I think Godwin in some magazines might have been higher than Julio. They had Godwin pretty high in some things, even higher than Mike Evans, which is amazing. But when you look at how 2020 and / 2021 season finished, or 2020 actually, the playoffs are in the 2021. When you look at this season, how it ended, Adams was number 1, Tyreek Hill was number 2, Diggs was 3, DJ Metcalf was 4,
Ridley
and Calvin Ridley. That
Ridley
was
was
surprising.
4.
Oh, 4? Oh, Metcalf was 5? Okay, I apologize. So I had them mixed up. But those are your new top 5 receivers. And I guess if you're going into the fantasy draft, Big Meat, are those new 5 players, are they still your top 5? Or is Michael
in that
Thomas?
Order?
No, not in that order, but just, do you think those are going to be the first top 5 to go? Or do you feel like there's still a place for Michael Thomas and Hopkins in 2021 to be in the top 5?
I would say no. Those would not be my top 5 going into in no particular order. They wouldn't be my top 5. I think Adams and Hill, no brainer. Those 2 guys, they were far and away better than the 3rd ranked receiver. I like Diggs. He had a good year this year. Like I said, most targeted receiver in the league, but he only scored 8 touchdowns, and one of them was a 3 touchdown game very late in the season. He reminds me a lot of like how Michael Thomas, the year that Michael Thomas was the first receiver taken in our draft this year, but Michael Thomas has never scored a lot of touchdowns throughout his career. He's very much like Julio Jones. And last year, when he broke the record last year for most receptions, I think he only ended up with 9 touchdowns. So to me, if you broke a record for most receptions in a season of all time and still only scored 9 touchdowns, that was concerning to me. You're telling me he would have to match the reception total that he had last year to even get close to 9 touchdowns? And I know every year is different, but to me, it just was a little bit of fool's gold. I mean, Michael Thomas is a great receiver, and I would even put him back in there as a top 5 receiver for next year. But the way where he was drafted this year, I think he was drafted 10th overall in our league. That was a little bit of fool's gold. I probably wouldn't have taken him that high. I wasn't that big of a fan of Thomas. And the same thing going with Diggs here. I don't see Diggs with his 8 touchdowns being enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to take him early as one of the top 5 receivers taken. I think Ridley is great, right? And especially now with Julio Jones kind of on the downhill. I think Ridley's the next star to emerge. I think Metcalf is unbelievable. I think Metcalf could end up being maybe even the best receiver in the league next year. I think he's going to take that next leap forward. There's other guys, like you said, Hopkins, I think is still going to be in the mix. You still have Michael Thomas. I think AJ Brown is another guy who only played 14 games this year, and he still has scored 11 touchdowns. I think AJ Brown's the guy, like the next guy who's going to emerge like big time. So yeah, I just don't see. I think it's, if I were to say right now, based on how everything stands, I would say my top 5 receivers would be Adams, in no particular order: Adams, Hill, Metcalf, Michael Thomas, and maybe AJ Brown.
What about Justin Jefferson? What about Jefferson?
There's Thielen there. Thielen's still there. It's a timeshare. I'm not a timeshare, but it's
he's a rookie. 1,400 yards as a rookie.
Yeah, 1,400 yards. But again, 7 touchdowns for him, where Thielen had 14. So I mean, how many? It's just the 2 guys there. They're splitting the targets. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. They're both going to be good receivers. No question. The same thing with Mike Evans. Mike Evans is the same thing. He's a good receiver, but you got Godwin, you got all these other guys that Brady's in, and now Antonio Brown's there. It's like, give me the guy with a decent offense around him, with a good quarterback throwing to him, but he's like the main guy, a guy like AJ Brown, and he's the guy I want. He's the guy I'm going to go for.
So I want to go back to your point of like Michael Thomas going 10 makes sense, and the reason why is because a lot of people look. He had 1,700 yards the season before. He was crushing records, and I would look at that and say, well, if you're going to use that same logic with CMC, he had a monster year. The likelihood of him being able to come close to repeating that kind of wear and tear is always they pay the price the following year, and they always have a down year. And Michael Thomas almost proved that. Monster 2019 season, 1,700 yards, breaking records, and couldn't even stay healthy for most of 2020. He was injured a lot. So I look at that and say, I see why people would draft him, but now there's such a pattern now that we're seeing that when these guys have breakout years and put that wear and tear, that additional wear and tear on their bodies, it seems to come at a cost the following season. And it's almost like, do you really want to chase those numbers for it? And I know Antonio Brown, when he was at the Steelers, like he was a guy that consistently year after year was crushing his numbers. So could be totally wrong with that. But Michael Thomas just broke down this year. I'm wondering, because Davante Adams has a history of getting hurt. He had a monster year. I mean, record break, like he had a monster year for himself. Do you expect him to be able to survive if they go deep? Say they go to the Super Bowl. That's a full season and a postseason. Can his body be ready and think it's going to handle another 2021 season and be able to stay healthy? I would say maybe not if they go deep in the playoffs. I would be concerned about Davante
I think
Adams.
running backs are a little different than receivers. Receivers are different than running backs. I think with running backs, you get those. We talked about this in the last podcast with Derrick Henry. To have almost 400 touches, that wears you down. You're running in a pile. You're running through a pile of huge 350-pound men and getting tackled and getting hit constantly, where receivers don't get hit as much, right? Even in a typical game, right? A good game for a receiver is 10 catches, right?
Yeah.
That's typically like a good game if they get 10 catches. Well, a typical good game for a running back is 20 carries. It's like double the amount of times you touch the ball and get hit. So I don't know if...
but Davante Adams had 149 targets this year.
Yeah.
And some games a lot of them were in double digits, 17-3. Then he got hurt for a couple of games after those that big series. Then he had 10, 16, 11, 12. And
he did what he did in 14 games.
Yeah. But he was targeted in almost double digits almost every game.
Yeah.
He's getting a lot of targets. I know running backs are different, but you getting hit open field over and over again and just keep getting targeted and getting those hits. And they're not built like running backs. There's a difference, right? They're not built like running backs. They're much smaller. I don't know. I'd be nervous if I'm in the 9th, 10th, because I'm already listening to fantasy football shows that are already saying Davante Adams is going in the first round.
Yeah.
He's going to be like one of the first pick. And it was debatable between Tyreek Hill and I forget who the third receiver they were having. But I don't know. I just feel like Davante Adams takes a lot of wear and tear, where I don't feel like Tyreek Hill gets that amount of wear and tear on him compared to Davante Adams.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill is the home run threat. Adams is kind of the do everything receiver. No, yeah. I think it's a factor for sure as you get that wear and tear, but I think Adams this year was just on another level. He was the guy. I mean, who else was Rodgers really throwing to? I know they had Scantling and a couple of the Tanyan, the tight end there. Yeah, I mean, they had a couple of guys, but it didn't have multiple receivers, great receivers. You basically, everybody knew that he was going to throw to Davante Adams. And whether you were double teaming him or whatever, like he was still catching the ball and scoring touchdowns and dominating. It was crazy how he was doing it. I couldn't believe at some point as a defensive coach, you would say, let's put a guy on that. Let's put somebody on that guy. Can we triple team that guy? Because that's all Rodgers is throwing to. And yet he was still putting in the numbers. Yeah, he's going to get injured. He did miss a couple of games this year. But I love the 18 touchdowns there. And it's not like this is the first year he's done it. He's had good years before. And that's, of course, whatever happens with Rodgers. It looks like now Rodgers is going to stay with the Packers. But let's just say he does. I think he's signed through next year, isn't he, Rogers?
I'd have
Anyway,
to look it up.
I'm kind of dating back to before this year. We always thought the Packers were just gonna blow up and Rogers was gonna leave, and this was his last year with the Packers. Now he might stay. Who knows? But if that does end up happening and he stays, and Adams is still fairly young enough, he's going to be his number one receiver again. Rodgers is a great enough quarterback. I think
agree.
It's the injury proneness that you're saying is that
I'm more worried about. Yeah. Can he repeat it? He's not built like DK Metcalf. You look at Metcalf and Adams physical, like even AJ Brown, big physical receivers, right? You think they could take the abuse, like the beating of high volume. They do everything. They sometimes, like AJ Brown does, run plays and stuff like that. I just look at Davante Adams and I'm a little nervous. And I'm just saying, I'm not questioning his talent and how great he could have a monster 2021, and I wouldn't be shocked. He's that good. Would he be healthy the whole season? And if I'm going to make him my number, like I said in this mock draft show, 7th overall pick, I'd be nervous. Yeah. A guy with that kind of volume.
Yeah, that's early. That would be early.
Again, the magazines might, and again, remember how fantasy experts work, right? They look at the numbers and they pigeonhole them, and they don't give you any like background, like, hey, dude, this guy got a lot of miles on him. Can he get hurt? You're gonna see people saying, I guarantee it, because I'm already hearing it on fantasy shows, 7th or 8th overall pick. I just feel like that's early because there's a good chance he might get injured real early in the season. Just because if they go deep in the playoffs, that's a lot of wear and tear on a smaller body.
Yeah. And
expecting this guy to, and again, when you're investing in a top 10 pick, you want your guy to be durable, at least somewhat durable.
Yeah, and he is a guy that's missed a lot of games throughout his career. I mean, he did. He played 12 games in 2019. He played in 15 in 2018. He played in 14 in 2017. He had a full season in 2016. But every season it seems like since then he's missed 1 or 2 or 3 games. So he could. Yeah, he could. And this is the year he scored 18 touchdowns. He scored 13 back in 2018. It wasn't like this guy was a perennial like Antonio Brown. I feel like Antonio Brown every year was like a 15 touchdown guy. So you're right. That's too early. For me, that's too early. However, we're in the bottom 6 in our fantasy league, Azar. So if you got the 10th pick, let's just say, if we did our lottery and you got the 10th pick and Davante Adams is sitting right there, you wouldn't take Davante Adams at 10?
No, I'm not saying that because I could take him 11.
What if Tyreek Hill is also there? Would you take Adams and Hill back to back? I'll tell you right now, for all those people, everyone listening, I would do that.
Yeah.
I'm crazy enough to take those 2 guys. And they're not really that crazy. It's like you're taking the 2 best receivers going into the season. Yeah, you'll be short on running back, but
if Adams gets hurt, you're screwed because you're not going to have running back depth. And Adams is your bell cow. And if he gets hurt early, you could be screwed. You could be screwed.
That's the risk
and that's be willing to take. And that's, look at Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas getting hurt, and that's your 10th overall pick. That messes up your team for the rest of the season. It's tough to recover from that. And it wasn't in that draft. Didn't they take back-to-back receivers? Wasn't it Michael Thomas and another receiver? Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so.
Or is I can't remember. I'd have to look at the.
It's happened before. I mean, people have done it before for sure. I've done it before, but I don't think
it was Aaron Jones. I apologize. It was Aaron. I was trying to remember who the other receiver. I mean, the player was. It was Aaron Jones, but I don't know. And Michael Thomas is a wild card. And just so we can wrap up the podcast. It all depends on what Drew Brees does. I don't know if Jameis Winston, if he is the starting. Well, you know what? Actually, I say that, but if Jameis Winston is just going to chuck the ball like he did with Tampa, and he's just going to throw it to Michael Thomas, just throw it deep and let that big freak jump up and catch it.
Yeah,
maybe Michael Thomas.
I don't know, but this goes back to the coaching philosophy too. That's the Bruce Arians approach in Tampa. Just chuck the ball deep.
Yeah,
and that's what they did. Maybe that's that. I don't think that's Sean Payton's style. I know he's a pass first type of coach, and they want to throw the ball a lot. But I don't know if Winston's going to be there. If he's going to, he's going to look at Winston and say, I'm going to put him in the same category as Brees and let him chuck the ball deep. I think it'll be a little bit more controlled. A little bit more of a controlled offense, but I mean, it could be Yeah, there could be other receivers that also, emerge out of nowhere next year and end up having this, phenomenal year. Like Mike Evans could end up being that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm actually intrigued by Ridley because that's a terrible defense. I don't see it getting much better in 2021. And they do throw the ball from behind. And Matt Ryan does just get up there and chuck it. It all depends on what they do from a head coach perspective. That could change Ridley's value depending on what the new head coach. So that kind of goes back to our earlier discussion because Ridley could be intriguing because when you're a number one receiver in Atlanta, that ball gets thrown to you a lot. And that could be an opportunity right there. I see DK Metcalf having a big year in 2021. And I do agree. Hopkins will be back in the top 5. I just think, there was some growing pains in Arizona and, it's his first year, but I think another full training camp in that with Kyler Murray, I think that's going to be a dangerous combination between those two. And I think Hopkins can easily be in the top 3 again by this time next year. So
I agree.
Should be interesting. So this is exciting. I love this topic. I could talk about it all night, which we probably would if we could, but
people would say the podcast is too long and they would complain.
But hey, you know what? We're trying to look for things to talk about, and I think fantasy football is always exciting, especially since we're still in the NFL playoffs. It's still relevant, and I'm very excited for the upcoming season, especially if COVID is over and we can go back to watching football in person. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So I can have my Bloody Mary when I tailgate in that first morning 1:00 game. That's the goal.
That's right. That's right. I'm willing to try it.
Yeah.
Willing to try the Bloody Mary.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I always thought it was candy bacon. I made a mistake. It was actually I was looking up a recipe. It was black peppered bacon. It was like a heavily seasoned piece of bacon. So both are delicious. Okay. So you won't be disappointed. I will find you, and I will cook the bacon. You'll be in your Bloody Mary. You'll have a boot mill in one hand, and you're going to be like, "This is the perfect combination for tailgating." Yeah. And yes, we'll have crock pots going because we don't want to cook, but we might not. Because we'll probably be doing breakfast that morning, so it won't matter about crock pots for after. Yeah, and what?
And grills.
And grills.
You're going to get back into that discussion again. The crock pot versus the grills.
I think we won that argument.
But you said bacon, and just whatever it is, bacon. It's you can't go wrong, right?
Thick cut bacon.
Yes, yeah. You just whatever you had me when you said bacon. That's it.
You're gonna love
some bacon in there. I'll have it.
Yeah, Big Meat's gonna be happy this upcoming football season. We can start tailgating again. All right, I have nothing else. Big Meat, any closing comments before we wrap it up?
No, other than go Bucks.
Go Bucks. All right, go to man. I hope
go Saints for you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I would love that. I'm looking forward to that game.
One of us will be wrong after this week because it'll completely destroy our Super Bowl predictions.
Yeah.
Because you say the Saints, I say the Bucks. I say the Bucks are going to win it all. You think the Saints are going to win it all. It comes down to this weekend's game. That's it.
That's why we could be laughed at just by right away. Like it's like, hey, jackass, your guy got eliminated. What's Super Bowl, right? So it's going to be right from the beginning. So, but hey, like I said, we went bold. Like we didn't want to make an easy prediction. We're telling you why we think we're going. Maybe not the most. Again, I don't know how bold it is to go pick Tampa or New Orleans.
No, I think it's bold because it's easy to just say the Packers and Chiefs. It's easy to just say, all right, go the bye weeks, the number one seeds for each. They're both playing phenomenally well. It's easy to just say those two teams.
Yeah,
so
and we want to make it exciting. So we're going to put ourselves out there.
I mean, we're not crazy. We're not saying Browns or Rams. We're not that bold.
We couldn't think of a worst.
We're usually with we're thinking with our heads here a little bit. I mean, at least we have a chance with the Bucks or the Saints.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, let's hopefully it's going to be a good football weekend, and next podcast we'll be talking about who was right, who was wrong. I'm sure there'll be some rubbing it in.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, and we'll try to keep up with the weekly podcast here as well. And so by this time next week. We'll find out. We'll know.
Oh, and we didn't do a lot of entertainment other than the football, but I did want to throw out a shout out. We're not going to talk about it. I just want to leave it as the last thought. If you have HBO Max, you like DC Comics, you've been disappointed with all the crappy product from the movies and everything they've done. There is a show called The Titans. I'm not going to go into detail right now on it, but give it a couple episodes. I think you'll find it entertaining and it will suck you in. It's got that. If you liked what Netflix did with Daredevil and The Punisher and that type of violent, heavy action type of shows, maybe not the best acting. It's not movie quality acting. But if you like those type of shows, give it a try. And then hopefully Big Meat and I will have a chance to give it a review. But I'm just throwing it out there if you're looking for something to stream right now. I'm sure
a lot of death and destruction.
Oh, a lot of yeah. I mean, basically,
death and gore and
yeah. I texted you right away. I was doing body count and basically Robin from Batman and Robin is basically like as violent as the Punisher, and the body count is as high as the Punisher, and it's not a character you would think of that would actually, you never see DC characters kill people, and in this show they don't play this cute like I'm gonna beat you up and tie you up like in the classic Batman type of thing. It is no, like I'm gonna take your face and drag it along the broken shards of a windshield kind of violent. So
you're saying there's no scene in the mall where like he ties the guys up and then he swings across the other side and beats them up a little bit, then swings back across again. There's nothing like that going on.
No, all unfortunately, right, that stellar wisdom of directing where where Wonder Woman's bouncing from edge to edge with her lasso. Yeah, no, he takes the R from his Robin and uses it like a Chinese throwing star and throws it into people's skulls.
Nice.
So it's graphic. So
yeah, I think they, and that was it was from an old comic book, right? It's like they kind of based it on the Nightwing character, and I think they just took his, because he's always a sidekick. Everyone remembers him from like the Adam West Batman, and it was like, oh, who's this little kid? Like, what's he doing here?
Yeah.
And I think they tried to make him a badass, right? I haven't seen the show, just kind of listening to how you're describing the show, but it sounds like they tried to turn that character around and say, hey, let's try to make this guy a little bit more of a badass and completely change his whole character around. So people don't think of Robin as this weak little sidekick that didn't really do anything, who's just kind of following Batman around everywhere. So that's interesting.
It's an interesting take to the classic DC comics, and the woman in it, one of the women that plays the characters is from Friday Night Lights. And I didn't realize she was the girlfriend of Derek Jeter. She dated Derek Jeter. She's going out with some guy, Trevor Noah, that comedian Trevor Noah. Like she's just like this famous blonde. Like I couldn't put her face anywhere. And then when you Google her, like she was in Friday Night Lights and stuff like that. So I know that would intrigue you, me. Just partial nudity. There's not a ton of nudity. Episode 7, if not, it's not. It's graphic, violent, but it's not so terrible where if your kids are watching it, like you got to shut the TV off and like, oh my God, there's so much like nudity and stuff like that. So, so it's not that bad, but definitely graphic to the point where my wife stepped out. She goes, I can't take it. It's too graphic. So it was good for me. Like that loves comics.
Very similar.
Yeah.
So like you said, the Punisher, very similar to that. If it's like that, then I would like it.
Yeah, you would. I think you'll love it. You're a fan of body count. So, all right, folks, long podcast. We're trying to do it weekly. So once a week, this will give you plenty of content to get you through the week, to pause and start and listen and go through the segments. And looking forward to next week to prove that I was right and Meat was wrong.
We'll see. Go Brady, go Bucks.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Take care.